A couple of challenging trends happening right now when it comes to preparing your taxes or really getting some help when you need it with your taxes. I'll explain 2 different tax notices you need to be on the lookout for and what you do when you get them. That and more coming up. My name is Mike Bernard. I'm the host of the Wise Money Show. I'm also one of the certified financial planners right here at Korhorn Financial Group. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and smash that thumbs up button. The Taxpayer Advocate Group, Taxpayer Advocate Service, is apparently an independent wing or portion of the IRS that is there to represent you, to be your voice. So if you're dealing with a hardship with the IRS, aren't we all? Or if you're trying to resolve a matter and just can't do so, or who do you reach out to when you're just frustrated with the overall service and experience that you have with the IRS? That's this Taxpayer Advocate Service. And so they write a blog or 2 a month, and then they also post at least once a year their 10 biggest issues with the IRS. And apparently they submit this to the IRS like, hey, these are our gripes. This is where you need to improve. Now, if you're dealing with any hardships or have any suggestions or whatnot for the IRS, I would tell you, go check out I've got the link below in the show notes, the description. And so check them out, reach out to them and get some help. But in reviewing their most recent, hey, these are our 10 problems, 2 of them stood out, and they stood out as in that they're connected to a couple of challenging trends. Problem number 2 and problem number 4 in their list of their top 10 are directly impacting each of us as we deal with the IRS. Problem number 2 is return processing time. Continuing delays with the IRS and processing. It's frustrating to all of us, absolutely. And this is where returns take too long to process. There's mistakes that are done and just overall delays with processing times. And then that connects with number 4, and that is overall service with the IRS. That anytime you do have an issue or the IRS reaches out to you and then you need to respond and resolve, your service time, your overall experience in dealing with the IRS is not good. It's one of the top problems in dealing with the IRS, and I think any of us could vouch for that. I heard a statistic recently that this past tax year, the entire year, individuals that called the IRS to basically say, hey, I'm calling because I have an issue, I'm calling in response to a notice, I need some help. Only 1/3 of the individuals that called the IRS actually got to someone that was able to help them. 2/3 of the calls dropped, or either the folks hung up because, I'm assuming you've heard this about the hours and hours of hold time and wait time, and I even heard this recently, I don't know if it's still happening, but if you're on hold for 4 hours, they just hang up on you and you've got to call back. And so just awful experience. So why am I bringing this up? Well, it sort of connects to 2 concerning trends going on within the world of tax preparation. And the first one is getting an actual tax notice from the IRS. Good news is, over the past several years, audits, which is that scary word that we've all heard before, tax audits are down, but tax notices are way up. And another term for these notices are a correspondence audit, where you get a letter in the mail from the IRS saying, hey, something's wrong here. And so instead of now there are still audits out there, okay, but those are declining in number, and what's going up or what's replacing it is you get these letters in the mail, a tax notice from the IRS. And a different tangent we're not going to hit in this video is those are ripe for fraud. So just a public service announcement, know that the IRS will never make their first contact with you by email, phone, or text. The first contact they'll have with you is this notice by mail, okay? So yeah, these are important, and typically when you get a notice, it's gonna come in one of 2 categories. 1, something's missing on your tax return. The IRS is sending you this notice saying, we got a tax form. So most people don't realize this. You get a 1099 tax form or you get a W-2 tax form, the IRS gets one as well. So they're sort of creating your tax return, and you are creating your tax return at the same time. And then after you file it, they're looking and saying, does this align? So if the IRS received a tax document that is not reported on your tax return, that's one of the types of notices they're saying, hey, something's missing from your tax return. And then the other big kind of blanket broad category of notices that you'll get is you reported something incorrectly. That nope, it's not that you didn't report something, it's all reported here, but you reported it in the wrong spot or you made a mistake. Now in both of these guys, you might think, and it certainly is going to make you nervous when you get that notice, uh-oh, I did something wrong. Not all the time. It's possible that the IRS did something wrong. It's possible that you did report this item just in a different spot accurately, and the IRS, it needs to be pointed out to them in a notice response. Or it's possible that the IRS is interpreting something incorrectly and you need to write a response as well. We actually see this a decent amount of time where these IRS notices are incorrect, and yet they're scary and they demand payment. And so it's tempting to just comply and say, okay, nope, here's some money, I'm okay. And instead, you need to verify that this is accurate. And then that connects to the second concerning trend within the tax preparing space. And that's the second type of tax notice, although this one doesn't come from the IRS, that you need to be on the lookout for. We've got another trend this year of new folks reaching out to us saying, okay, it's middle of February, it's late February, and I haven't heard from my tax preparer yet. So I reached out to them, and turns out they're no longer doing taxes. There is a growing decline in the number of tax professionals out there, with lots of folks that have been doing taxes either saying, I'm retiring because of all the tax law changes that have happened over the past several years and really in response to COVID. It's too complicated, it's too confusing, the rules keep changing, taxpayers are having a hard time keeping up with it. I'm done, I'm retiring. Or for all those same reasons, I'm changing careers, I'm getting out of this. And with that, I'm not gonna say mass exodus, but with a lot of people leaving the profession, it's not a very attractive profession for a lot of new folks to enter into. And so this second tax notice, which isn't from the IRS, is also common. That is a notice from your tax preparer saying they're no longer doing taxes, you need to go find someone else. These two concerning trends just bring me to the question, what do you do when you need help? What do you do when you need help? And because the lens that I just can't unsee it, our team, we can't unsee it, how completely connected the seemingly disconnected parts of your financial life actually are. That there's 6 areas to your financial life: your present financial position, protection planning, all your insurances and the right coverage, tax planning, investment planning, retirement planning, estate planning. They're all connected. These are not separate and distinct parts of your financial life. Yeah, they might have their own uniquenesses, but you've got to connect them together and look at them as a whole in order to make great decisions. So to me, in response to these two kind of trending challenges of more notices coming from the IRS, fewer people out there to help you, you've got to turn to your certified financial planner, and your CFP needs to help be part of the solution. We've got a full team, a tax professional team here where we prepare a lot of returns. And if your CFP has that set up, fantastic. Then they're in a great spot to be able to collaborate with the tax preparer or do the taxes themselves to ensure that things aren't missed, but they're also there for you when and if you get a notice and something comes up. Oftentimes these tax notices come up in the summer or outside of tax season. Well, if you're just working with a temporary tax prep service that you might see a lot of commercials for, when you need help, they're not there because they work seasonally just for a certain period of time. So working with your certified financial planner and having them collaborate with your tax professional is vital, and that is key. That's the help that you need. So work with your CFP on that. Overcome these two challenges that are sort of trending in the wrong direction. So work with your CFP on that. If you don't have a CFP on your team, we're here to help. You can contact one on my team, find us online, Korhorn.com. That's Korhorn with K. WiseMoneyShow.com. You can find us there as well, or send us an email, info@Korhorn.com. All right, there you have it. Go out and take your next wise step in your financial life.